Namaste. Welcome to my podcast. Apologies for actually recording a podcast at such a later date in the month. I was just kind of busy in the first half of the month with some personal work issues. But, anyways, we're back, and I'm really happy to have this discussion today. So today's discussion is actually going to be a little different because normally what happens in all my podcasts that I have, I usually cover topics that are interrelated in some way. But today I'm going to be covering two distinct topics with one person. So in case, if you want to listen to it in two separate parts and all that, you guys could do that. I wouldn't recommend that. I usually recommend listening to a podcast in one whole go in an hour's time because in my view, it makes better listening. But I leave it to you guys. So, anyways, enough of me yapping. So, welcome to the podcast, Shubhrastha.
Thank you, Kushalji. Thanks for having me.
So, Shubhrastha, before we get into some serious discussion, why don't you tell the listeners a bit about yourself?
Uh, this is a very tricky question. I don't know how to answer it. I am a 31-year-old. I mean, I will be 31 years old this year. I'm a 31-year-old woman who is trying to find my space in the political professional world. I am basically a writer, and all I do is to enrich myself as a writer. I've been a journalist in the past. I have done news reading. I was a news reader at All India Radio, and then I said tata bye bye to media as such, and started professional political campaigning. Now I am with the BJP, and I've decided that I will not campaign for a political party which sort of supports dynasty politics. I've decided that I will not support Italian Congress in India, and therefore my stated political positions are very, very clear. Yes, that's just about me.
So interesting, you said you started off with journalism. So I want to ask you this question. So how was your experience with journalism as a kind of an insider?
I wouldn't say it was a bad experience at all. In fact, I learned a lot during my stint as a freelance journalist. I started with The Hindu, and interestingly, I wrote to Siddharth Varadarajan and got my first taste of journalism at The Hindu. He'd started something called the Periscope, which did feature-ish news. I interned there, and after finishing my 1.5 months of internship, I started freelancing. So, my experience with journalism has been very liberating at one level and very constricting at the other. Liberating in the sense that it opened up my mind to seeing the world from a lens that was not theoretical, and constricting in the sense that because after a point in time I realized that journalism in India today um, is not apolitical. It's extremely politicized, and there is intellectual politics at play as well. Therefore, in order to survive as a journalist with a spine, you need a lot more than just integrity. And so and I also wouldn't want to call myself as an insider to journalism because I was always freelancing. I never was associated with a media house for a living. I always did something else beyond writing and beyond doing stories. So perhaps that question doesn't seem relevant in my context. However, I would say that it's a very interesting time for journalism and journalists in India today. We are going through a process of churn, and there is lot to look forward to, and there is lot to introspect.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting what you raised, but at least in my view, see, I'm just a pure consumer of news और मतलब मेरा जो मत है या मेरा नजरिया है वो सिर्फ एक न्यूज़ सुनने वाले और पढ़ने वाले का है. What bothers me today is that we don't get news, we get too much opinion in India. It's like I don't need opinion. I just wanted reportage, and I thought I was smart enough to derive my own views based on the reportage. But the problem today that I see with journalism per se in India is that there is just too much opinion. Everything is opinion, opinion, opinion. So what is your take on that?
I would agree and disagree with you, Kushalji, in the sense that I think that for a very long time in India, we always had a particular type of opinion, which was given to the readers in form of editorials and op-eds. The qualification the qualification for a writer to write editorial and op-eds was extremely political, ideological, and motivated. I think we are at a space and we are at a place where this kind of intellectual gatekeeping has been, thrown to the winds thanks to social media. So uh, I would rather say that this is more of a democratization of space than travesty to news as such. However, what you raised is very critical, that today as a reader or as a consumer of news, it's very difficult to make that distinction between news and views. And it is important for us as aware citizens to to really introspect on it and see where we are taking our media and how we are accepting media as it stands today. Where I have a problem with is this whole facade of being liberal, this whole facade of being objective, when none of us are. All of us come with our own set of biases, and we are not ready to accept that. We are not ready to put it out in the public domain that this is our stated political position and this is our view. I don't understand this intellectual dishonesty. I don't understand this need to always camouflage ourselves as independents or as neutral opinion makers, which none of us are. So, to answer your question very specifically, I think and I genuinely believe in many conversations that I have that we as a nation are going through a systemic churn. It is this process of churning where we have a side which believes that what is happening is really positive. And I do come in that category. I believe that despite all the noise, despite all the negativity, what we are undergoing is a fundamental shift in the way we viewed the country as a whole. And I think it's important for us to go through it. Earlier, it was always concealed. Earlier, these processes of churns or all these conversations happened in elite cocoons where people were actually sequestered from what was going on. Today, it's out there in the open, and there is the ugly side of it as well, and we are exposed to it, and it makes us vulnerable and at the same time aware of how we behave in a public domain. So I think it's interesting. I think we all should know the good, bad, and the ugly of our own selves.
Yeah, I agree, and I think social media, like you said, has played a huge role in exposing this nexus of some sorts. I hate to use the word nexus though, but there I think there was a huge over the years there was a huge ideological homogenization of mainstream media, and there's no challenge. I always say the other view in India in mainstream media is like that museum piece. आप जाते हो ना म्यूजियम में, तो होता है वो देखो पुरानी एंसेस्ट्रल relic. सो इंडिया में जब आप न्यूज पैनल में भी जाओगे, अगर आप बिफोर आई से दिस इज प्री ऑर्नब नॉट पोस्ट ऑर्नब, प्री ऑर्नब अगर आप याद करो, क्योंकि मैं 5 साल से न्यूज नहीं देख रहा हूँ, तो मेरा एक्चुअल एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ न्यूज मीडिया सिर्फ ऑर्नब के पहले का है.
Hmm.
जब से ऑर्नब बड़ा हुआ है, मेरा उसका एक्सपीरियंस भी नहीं है असल में. तो मगर मैं जब पहले देखता था ना, जस्ट फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर मैं एनडीटीवी लगाता था तो उसमें होता था एक बंदा आता था जो एक दूसरा हट के थोड़ा पॉइंट देता था, मगर इट वाज वन वॉइस अगेंस्ट फोर. सो बेसिकली होमोजेनाइजेशन थी व्यू की, जो सोशल मीडिया ने बहुत अच्छे तरीके से तोड़ा. But obviously abhi social media bhi, in a way, it has become a cesspool of negativity, and everybody's a mind reader over there. But anyways, I don't want to get into how amazing social media is, because that would just diverge. So now on to the main question. You said you're a writer, so obviously I wanted to talk about your book, which you co-wrote with Rajat. The book's title is The Last Battle of Sarai Ghat, the story of BJP's rise in the Northeast. So now my first question about the book is, why would you want to research this specific topic?
So, Kushal, as you would know, and as the listeners would want to know, those who are listening into this podcast, one of my professional identities is that of a political campaigner. So when we landed in the Northeast to sort of work on the whole Northeast project politically for the BJP, we did a lot of research in terms of, secondary research, reading up on texts, on literature, on political commentaries, and all. And we realized that there's very little that has been written on the Northeast by people from outside the Northeast. Yes, there have been voices, there have been amazing voices. Like Nitin Gokhleji has written a lot, Shekhar Gupta has written on it, and Arun Shourie ji, of course, wrote on it. And these guys did a very nice, objective, fantastic job at chronicling the region from their point of view. However, in terms of a properly researched political commentary, it was always lacking. I also realized that the ideology with which I see myself associating with, which is that of civilizational nationalism, I think that we would have done a huge disservice if we had not written of our experiences of the Northeast. That was one of the reasons why I picked it up. The trigger to write that book came from one of the moments in the campaign when Rajat and I we were brainstorming on something very historical, and we exchanged this point of view about this non availability of literature on the Northeast by quote unquote outsiders. And that's when we realized that we should actually do this, because every election campaign, especially in regions where the BJP has not made a decisive foray, is always seeped in history. It actually, the whole narrative, the electoral narrative, is seeped and soaked in the historical legacies of the past, and that happened decisively in case of Assam. Whenever Sri Amit Shahji used to come to address a rally, he raised something really historical, some issue which was there in the past and which connected with the people. When Mr. Modi came, he did the same. So we realized that perhaps apart from what we are doing, we need to put it out all together in a book format and see where it goes. So this book is not an authoritative commentary on the region. This book is also not a political history of the region. This book is essentially about two people from the Hindi heartland, UP and Bihar, who happened to work in the Northeast and wanted to talk about their experiences in the region and their understanding of the region through whatever we got to read or whatever we got to research or whatever we got to experience.
Now, obviously, a major focus of the book, which you have co-written with Rajat, has been the subject of illegal migration. Right now, it's obviously a serious issue. Now, when we look at the subject of illegal migration, again, it cannot be generalized as a whole Northeast issue. Or what do you think about it, is my question per se. That when we look at illegal migration, is it different issues for different states, or we can find a general trend across the Northeast about illegal migration? In fact, I would request you to elaborate on this whole issue per se.
So, see, our book has been in a lot of controversies with respect to the title, "The Last Battle of Saraighat," and I'm raising this issue because the Battle of Saraighat for us was also a parable, was also a metaphor that we've used to comment on the global aspect of migration. See, in my personal view, and this is strictly as a writer, not as somebody who is working with the BJP on elections, migration is bound to happen in the global village kind of a concept that we have today. People will migrate for economic opportunities, and I don't believe in borders per se with respect to this particular thought process. However, we are not living in isolation. We are not living in a politically neutral space where everybody is good and every nation has the agenda of only economic prosperity and development. We are living in a deeply polarized world where migration also comes laced with other aspects of politics and geopolitics. Now, with respect to that, it becomes a problem when when migrants become a tool to perpetuate a political order. That has been the system, that has been the norm in places like Assam, in places like in some of the states of the Northeast. Now, why do I say this? Because there are historical antecedents to it. I mean, the whole Assam movement, for instance, was built on this rhetoric of migrants and how they're challenging the cultural historical legacy of Assam as a state, of Assam as a civilization. So, of course, there is politics involved there, and of course, the whole issue of migration becomes very vexed when it punctuates itself with the question of identity. And it is not just limited to Assam. When you are a traveler, Kushalji, and you've lived in various parts of the world as well, and you would know it for a fact that today Europe and the US is suffering a lot because people have not addressed the issue of migration as it should have been discussed. Somehow there is always a veil of political correctness which is dawned on, and we don't want to discuss this issue in the most legitimate form that it should be discussed. Why should any global citizen have a problem with migration? One should not. There are ways in which you migrate from one country to the other. There are laws, rules, regulations. You follow that, you migrate for economic opportunities or for XYZ reasons. There are rules that allow you to do so. But when you come from one particular place to the other with the agenda of usurping space, physical space, when you come to homogenize the entire region with one culture, when you come with the agenda of religious bigotry, all of that becomes a problem. We have seen that happening in Jammu and Kashmir. And people fear, by the way, in places like Assam, common people, I'm not talking about sophisticated intellectuals who have the foresight and the hindsight benefit to pontificate on issues. Middle class people who are surviving on pure hard work, merit, and do not have the luxury of having intellectual discussions every single day and investing their time and energies on lot of research, are scared that Assam might become the next Kashmir. This is something that we have chronicled in the book. This is the voice of common citizens. Now, how do politicians want to take it up? Where do we allow politicization to happen on this issue are questions that a general citizenry, an aware citizen of this nation, that's something that we need to sit together and brainstorm on. But I think the question of migration, the legality and the illegality of it, needs to be discussed without the veneer of political correctness.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. In fact, I had written one of those rare articles that I write once in a blue moon. It was on Op India, and in fact, I had given a philosophical argument about what should be India's immigration policy, and for that matter, what should be the immigration policy period of any country. And it stems from the pauper's paradox of intolerance, that any society, any liberal structure, any liberal gene pool or a meme pool can only function till the core structure of that meme pool is liberal in terms of numbers. And I mean, there have to be sufficient number of memes inside that pool that support liberalism. Let's say you let in a meme that does not believe in those liberal values of mutual respect and live and let live, and they out reproduce the meme pool of liberalism. Well, you're not going to have liberalism. It's a no brainer. And Popper spoke about it, and this is a problem worldwide. You use Europe as an example. I mean, what Europe is facing right now is exactly what India is facing. Basically, migration is not the problem. It is the type of migration that happens is the problem here. And I don't know why people are so scared to talk about it. It doesn't mean you're generalizing any section of the population. You're just saying that this is a paradox. Tell me, if let's say I as an individual believe in openness, I believe in freedom, I believe in openness, I believe in freedom of speech, exchange of ideas, but then I let someone into my house that comes in and then says whatever you believed in does not work, you're going to have to live the way I believe. Now, how do I accept that? And unfortunately, in India, the identity politics has seeped in so much, and it shows in different ways. It could be identity politics sometimes on the basis of language, sometimes on the basis of jativad, sometimes on the basis of religion. I mean, I think we have done a PhD in identity politics in India, because thanks to our diversity. But this is a problem now. When you were working on the ground, in the Northeast? Obviously, you were not state specific, you guys were traveling around a lot. Now, has this question of identity politics and this paradox is it being discussed? I'm not saying in an intellectual way, but in a in a generalized way. Is this being raised amongst the population there? Because obviously you guys have a far more hands-on experience than say I do.
Of course, it is being raised, Kushalji, and that is the reasons. Look, I think any political party, when they begin a campaign, when they go on a campaign expedition of sorts, I think they raise issues which are, or let me put it this way: any successful political party or any successful politics is I mean, let me just rephrase it. The success of any politics depends on how much your articulation resonates with the people on ground. The kind of wave Assam election, the last Assam elections, 2016, had, that wave outpassed or outnumbered the Assam movement. The wave was that significant, and that wave was that, viral, if I were to use that word. It happened because BJP raised the core issue which is afflicting Assam today. I would not say that these issues are not being discussed among the general people. But I would say that the way in which the general people discuss the issue is very different from how we would want to discuss the issues in research papers, or in television studios, or in any sophisticated formats of discussion. What I'm trying to say is that anybody who becomes the representative of a community, or who wants to represent certain views of a community, needs to have the guts and the spine to articulate issues that people are facing. There is a definite mismatch between the lived experience and the intellectualized version of that experience. There are many societies in the Northeast who are not able to articulate their questions of identity, or their concerns with identity, the way it should be, because some of them have also suffered from historical amnesia. Generations of them have willfully forgotten the kind of proselytizing influences that they've suffered. They don't want to revisit it. For example, look at the Khasi culture. The Khasi culture was not a Christian culture to begin with. But today, does a Khasi intellectual, I'm not saying all of them are like that, but does most, I mean, because we do have to talk in generalizations to get a sense of view. But I genuinely want to ask how many Khasi intellectuals really raise this issue and want to work on this issue the way militantly it needs to be worked on. And I use the word militantly in terms of intellectual militancy, because there has been a willful erosion, there has been a willful erasure, and there has been a willful um, forgetting of that experience. Who will chronicle it? Who will write about it? Who will talk about it? That's a question which societies must ponder on. And I don't think it's something that only I am articulating. These are thoughts that a minority within the Khasi communities, I mean, I'm just taking Khasi community as an example. It can be extended to the other cultures which are on the verge of extinction now because of that one, homogenization of culture, homogenization of religious identities, and so on and so forth. The question is, when will these minorities, who were once a majority, articulate it and take a firm stand there? So I don't think conversations are not happening. I think in this whole vote bank politics that we have sort of mastered by now, we do not want to discuss uncomfortable questions of society. And it works at every level. It works in the majoritarian politics, it works in the minority politics as well. Sometimes it's about appeasement. The other times it's about, okay, we are not in power right now, let us come to power, we'll discuss it then. But in this whole politics of addressal or non addressal, who is the victim? If culture is the victim, culture cannot have a voice until and unless people who believe in that culture or live that culture articulate it. So to answer your question very specifically, Kushalji, Yes, conversations are happening, but do they need to be louder? Of course, yes. Do they need to be more structured? Yes. Do they need state patronage? Yes.
You brought the point out of proselytization, which I anyways wanted to talk to you about it, because that was going to be my next question. So it's actually nice that you brought it out in your last answer. So now here's another typical problem we face in the Northeast. You have a complete change of demography, and this is my problem also within the Hindu society also. Yeah, I have met too many Hindus in my life. By the way, just for the record, I'm an atheist. That's a separate thing, but I identify as an Hindu. I just call myself a Nastika, Nirishwarvadi, Charvak. But if I say these words, people look at me as if pata nahi main koi pagal hu. So I have to use the word atheist every time so that they get where I'm coming from in a way. But here's the thing, now I clearly identify myself within the Hindu fold, but with with the advent of Abrahamic faith in India, there is a structural difference between Indic faiths and Abrahamic faiths. And there is this, exclusivity aspect in Abrahamism, where only my God is the true God and no other God is true. And in fact, you're committing blasphemy. It goes to the extent of denying your, freedom to worship, versus the which is the dharmic way, which is, has always been okay. मे बी तू भगवान में मानता है, मे बी तू नहीं मानता है, चल ठीक है, जो भी है हम लोग सब एक है, चल आजू बाजू में रहते हैं, हाँ ठीक है, हमारी नोक झोंक होती रहेगी, मगर विल वर्क अराउंड दैट. आई ऑलवेज से द धार्मिक वे इज द काइंडली एडजस्ट वे. हम एडजस्टमेंट और म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट पे चलते हैं. नाउ इट इज सच अ ह्यूज इशू इन नॉर्थ ईस्ट, बट आज हमारा पॉलिटिकल क्लाइमेट ऐसा है कि हम इसके बारे में बात भी करें तो हम ब्रांड हो जाते हैं, भाई तू कम्युनल है, तू पता नहीं क्या क्या है, मेरे को तो समझ ही नहीं पड़ता. अभी आई एम रन आउट ऑफ लेबल्स नाउ इन माय लाइफ. सो एक तरफ ये होता है, और ऐसे माहौल में जहां पे इतनी लॉपसाइडेड डेमोग्राफी है, हो गई है अभी नॉर्थ ईस्ट में, फिर भी बीजेपी की इतनी मीटियोरिक राइज है, उसका क्या कारण है?
Because, as I said, Kushalji, BJP in the Northeast till now, especially with this new politics which sort of inaugurated post Mr. Modi phenomena, BJP raised issues and packaged it in a way that people were discussing. As I said, without the, if I have to use a word in Hindi, without the lag lapet of political correctness, without being communal. For example, I'll give you an example from Meghalaya. On the election day, um, the the Radio Mirchi guys, an RJ during the on the day of Meghalaya elections, she announced it on record to vote against the BJP. It was as clear as that. We filed the BJP went ahead and filed a police complaint, of course, because it's against the election commission guideline. Guidelines, and of course it's communal, and it violates the model code of conduct. Now, for the first time, I think a political party went ahead and did that. There have been instances as late as this election where churches have come out in the open to say which party you should vote for or not vote for. Religious heads have decided for people how they should be conducting themselves. And it is ironical, it is extremely ironic that we are in a secular land, and in the Christian worldview, secularism means the separation of the church and the state. That has been the state of politics in the Northeast, and it became so over a period of time. Now, why is BJP resonating among the masses? Is because it is taking these issues head on. It is not shying away from saying what needs to be said. There was this whole propaganda spread against the Modi government that they've not issued visa to particular pastors, that they've discriminated against religious heads of various churches, and so on and so forth. And when Mr. Modi made that speech in Meghalaya, when he had come on a campaign trail, he made it very clear in no uncertain terms that these were the Christian nurses that we rescued from abroad. These were the things that have been done. Now, now you can look at it in two ways. Was it important for a prime minister to articulate it the way he did? Was the prime minister's office doing communalizing the whole narrative, or was it needed? I think the Prime Minister took an extremely practical call in articulating in the language the church wanted to understand and the language in which people should be made to understand. Earlier, it was not proper to put it out in the public domain. But Mr. Modi made it clear that if you want to communalize anything, we will not let that happen if we are not in the wrong. And that's what he did. And I think this is why people are really enthusiastic about the BJP, because it is raising issues that really resonate with the people. So
Yeah.
yeah.
One last question I wanted to ask you. How much of do you think BJP's success has also been the fact that the Congress and see we can you can play identity politics all you want, but at the end of the day, a man's got to work, a woman's got to work, you got to have food on the table, you got to have a life, you got to have basic facilities. So do you think there has been a significant shift in the mindset of people in the Northeast where they say, enough of this identity politics? At the end of the day, identity politics is not going to fill my stomach. Do you sense that when you go out there?
Absolutely, Kushalji, because the whole conversation on identity politics in the Northeast is happening in quarters which are away from the Northeast. Let me be very frank about it. In Assam, for instance, people are least bothered about the term identity politics than the fact that they need, as you very rightly said, that beyond a point in time, a Bogibeel bridge needed to be built. Beyond the point in time, Assam needed to be connected with the rest of the country in terms of infrastructure. Look at the Guwahati airport today. Look at the revamp it is going through. Congress government could never have even thought about it. I mean, Assam movement, Assam Accord जो साइन हुआ था, जिस ब्रिज को तब बनना था, वो ब्रिज आज जा करके बना है. So it's no. I think people. I think identity politics will always remain the core of what BJP is proposing in the Northeast because it resonates with the people. That is why the BJP has been elected prima facie. However, the question of development is something that BJP will not compromise on. Look at Manipur, for instance. This is for the first time in the history of Manipur politics, Kushalji, when an MLA, when ministers are taking rucksacks filled with grains and delivering it to the households in flood affected areas. How many MLAs have you seen doing that? There was a picture which was going on, which was getting viral on social media, where an MLA from Assam, all drenched in mud, doing farming and living a normal life, was publicized. How many ministers or MLAs or MPs do you think from the Congress have had that kind of a connect with people? See, it's not always about wearing Fab India beautiful cotton saris or handmade saris from Orissa or wherever and getting two, Darbari Patrikas to do a profile on your sartorial sense. That's not how you connect with people. You connect with people when you stand with people when they need you the most. Today, when Manipur has faced one of the worst floods, look at the way the chief minister is actually getting down in the flood water, not for photo ops, but genuinely to help out the people. This is a face of government, this is a face of politicians that the people of Manipur never saw. So I don't think it should come as a surprise to intellectuals sitting in Delhi, Mumbai, or other metropolitan quarters, or any disconnected from the northeast urban quarters as to why is BJP popular. BJP is popular because of its regional leaders. BJP is popular because it has given platform to those regional leaders who have really worked for the masses. Himanta Biswa Sharma, for example, in Assam, the kind of work that he did for healthcare, for education, even while he was in the Congress government, has been phenomenal. So people resonate with this kind of leadership. And to just to clarify, identity politics, as I said in the beginning, I think uh, in a hurry, I did not pay much attention to it. Identity politics is going to stay because ultimately the question development for whom has to be answered by the politicians who are representing the people in the various houses, whether at the state or in the parliament, at the central level. It has to be answered. आप development किसके लिए कर रहे हैं? कौन है आपके लोग? And when I mention आपके लोग, I mean Indians. आपको जवाब देना होगा. So identity politics is here to stay, but you can't. The rhetoric of identity politics And the real politics of identity politics should not affect the development. I think the current leadership of BJP is extremely balanced in that sense of the term.
Yeah, and I hope it continues this way, because it was nice to see BJP coming up so much in the Northeast. Because uh, not only because I am a potential BJP voter, but I think in life एक option मिलती है जब जनता को genuine option मिलती है, और फिर दो stable options रहती हैं, तो it's always better and more healthy for a democracy when you have as many options as you can. And uh, so, anyways, like I had mentioned in the monologue, now I'm going to shift to a completely different topic. But before we do that, once again, guys, I'm going to leave the Amazon link of Shubhrastha and Rajat's book in the description of the podcast. So click the link, buy the book, read it. I highly recommend you guys do that. And if you don't do it, shame on you. Like I always said, I believe in shaming people in buying books. That's my way of marketing. So now on to the next question. Obviously, this has nothing to do with what we've been discussing till now, but I think it's important, and I try to discuss this subject with as many people as I can, especially with my women guests. So it is about feminism. So I'm just giving you my observation. I'm not making any value judgment on what people think is right or wrong. That's outside, but at least this is what I observe. I mean, I see a trend rising, whether it's on social media or in discussions, where people now reject feminism lock, stock, and barrel. And in many cases, I think that rejection is even without understanding what feminism is or what the history of feminism is, as in, say, for example, what is first wave, second wave, third wave feminism. I mean, what is your specific problem with feminism? I'm not saying everybody who rejects feminism is equally ill informed. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying there is this trend where is a lot of rejection of feminism is ill informed. Now, at least in my view, in a country like India, I still feel we have some problems when it comes to treatment of women. We have a way to go. I'm not saying other countries are perfect, but I'm saying I'm only concerned about the society I live in. Now, in that scenario, I'm not saying feminism is the only answer, but if some of them, and I'm not talking about the rabid I hate men feminists, there are reasonable feminists too. What is so bad, and what's your whole take on feminism? So take it away.
So, Kushalji, off late, I'm finding it really difficult to express myself, because I am not only asserting, I am also reacting, I'm also reflecting, and I'm also giving it back to people, to ideologies, to institutions, and to organizations. So, therefore, there's this hesitance, and there's this sense of closure, or this sense of punctuations that come while I speak or while I write. The question of feminism is one such issue which really makes me very conscious when I articulate myself on that. Do I call myself a feminist? Yes, I do. But that where I call myself a feminist is a very very political question for me. Will I call my I'll be very brutal and frank with you. Do I call myself a feminist on social media? Hell no. Will I call myself a feminist in my village in Bihar? Yes, I would, and I'll tell you why. Because the entire discourse of feminism in a country like India has been hijacked by urban elitist women who have almost no exposure, let alone understanding and empathy for the women of this country. And most of the time they don't even have a knowledge of the tradition that we come from, or if even if they do, they have this sense of derision with respect to our traditions. Now, when you started off this question, you said that I asked this question to a lot of my women guests. You should ask this question to every guest which comes on your podcast, because the question of gender is not limited to just women. The question of gender is limited to any human being, even and this category includes the LGBTQ as well. I say that because in India, especially in the Hindu tradition, we have not had a problem unlike the Abrahamic traditions or the unlike the Christian or the Islamic tradition of women being an inferior lot. We are not species carved out from the rib of Adam. We were the center of creation, especially in India, where you have female deities in the female form, with something as and for the West, it would be outrageous to worship a uterus. There's Ambubachi Mela, which is going on in Assam right now, where the female yoni is celebrated, is worshipped, and with reverence. There are a lot of traditions around it. So I don't understand the misplaced notion of feminism within this larger rubric that we had. And I ask this question every time to my own self and to the other people I have conversations with. What are we seeking freedom from? We were always free. We did not have to go through a suffragette movement. From day one, women were given voting rights. And these are all historical antecedents that we need to be cautious and conscious of when we take up an issue like that. To say that there is no gender inequality in India would be to fool ourselves. Of course, there is. We have obnoxious practices like the Hage dowry, for instance. We have obnoxious social conditioning where men are completely taken away from the kitchen, and it's the women who is supposed to take care of all the household chores and all that. But I don't think that has got to do with the traditional outlook of our country. It has got more to do with social conditioning, which has gone wrong somewhere, and we need to go back in time to reflect where did we actually go wrong. Therefore, I have a huge problem in identifying myself as a feminist, but I also have a problem in not identifying myself as a feminist, because there are these two different strands that we are always forced to sort of tread on. Today, the Western world is having a lot of conversation on equal paychecks for women and maternity leaves and all of that, and I think it's very very relevant for India as well. But do we completely import the Western notion of feminism, the Western notion of victimization to pontificate on our issues and on the experiences that we've had? Of course not. There has to be a nuance, and we need to understand that in India, women have never ever been victimized, or never have been treated as lesser creatures. It's the social conditioning which has led to that. Whereas in the other traditions, were always inferior, right from the day they were born, right from the day when womanhood as a concept emerged. I mean, there is a difference when you are carved out of a rib of an Adam, and there is a difference when you are the source of creation, even of the various divine shaktis of the gods. There is a fundamental difference out there, and therefore this outlook has to be appreciated before we force down feminism. Before we force feminism down the throats of especially the rural women of this country.
I'm in agreement with you on the prognosis at the scriptural level. I agree that at the scriptural level, India definitely has a far better working system than, say, the Abrahamic structure of the West, and obviously because they deny God was a man. I
Hmm.
mean, obviously, God was a man according to the Abrahamics. So,
No, and Adam was fooled by Eve into eating of the apple, and
yeah,
therefore mankind fell.
हाँ, वो सबसे पहला पाप ही औरत ने किया उनके हिसाब से, मैं
Exactly,
उनको हमेशा
exactly.
कहता हूँ। सो वो तो कुछ कर नहीं सकते उसका, बट देर इज अ फैक्ट दैट this is my view again, and this I'm stating my view. I always found it fascinating the degrees of problem, giving problems to women might vary, but we can historically look throughout the history of the human race. Women have been given problems, whether it's at the scriptural level or it is at the practical level. Now, I don't want to get into the scriptural level with Hinduism, because with Hinduism there is this beautiful thing of mental gymnastics. वो बोल देगा भाई मैं ये स्क्रिप्चर को डिनाई करता हूँ, दूसरा बोल देगा मैं ये स्क्रिप्चर को डिनाई कर देता हूँ, मैं इसको फॉलो नहीं करता हूँ. It's a beautiful thing in Hinduism. Actually, it has an inbuilt upgradation. So that's an asset and a liability. It becomes a liability for an atheist who wants to debate them. But let us leave aside. But when we look at the ground level, we have problems. Women have problems in India. Now flip that around and look at the Western world, where scripturally they have far bigger problems than us, but they have come a long way. Now what do we do in that aspect? Now usme, I mean, one of my favorite memories, growing up, was reading Madhukeshwar's Why I'm Not a Feminist, and she's been a champion of the women's movement in India. I mean, she's an absolute champion. But here's my thing. What are the problems? And I'll give an example. जब भी हम सोशल मीडिया पे बात भी करते हैं ना, अगर there are problems women face in India, there is this weird response within the Hindu movement that say नहीं, हमारे में कोई problem ही नहीं है. I mean, how do you deal with those idiots?
Hmm. I don't know how to deal with those idiots, as, as you said, because I need to deal with my own self first before I deal with them. And I'm being really honest about it, because as you rightly said, that there is a problem, and this beautiful problem of the Hindu way of life, which is so liberal that you can take positions, deny it, and still be where you are. So I will not get into the question of how do we deal with it, but regarding the whole the question that you raised on, they have, I mean, they, when I say they, I mean the Western world have come a long way, whereas we have not been able to. Of course, externalization of the problem, and to say that at the scriptural level we are far more superior than the Abrahamic tradition is not going to solve the issue for sure. But I think we need to have conversations within. For example, yesterday I was going back to some of the research which I did on my on the second book that I'm writing, which is on women in India, and I was reading up on Dakshayani Velayudhan, and I realized, why is it that we have not been able to give this Dalit woman her due? Here was a Dalit woman, the first and the only Dalit woman in the Constituent Assembly, who stood up against none other than the celebrated Dr. Ambedkar. And she made a point, and she made a very passionate point, and she's made it twice during the debates, but we never get to know of her. So I think the problem in India has been that of politics, and it's not the post independence politics, it was pre independence politics as well. This whole sense of marginalization for whatever reason of women, and not giving them the voice that they deserved, has been a huge disservice to us. Even today, when you look at, I mean, I studied English literature, and I we had this amazing these amazing papers where we studied Indian literature in English, and we had some Sanskrit texts, we had some texts from the Tamil tradition, and we had some texts from Northeast. Not many from the Northeast, but yeah, some from the Northeast, some from Maharashtra and all of that. And there is a significant absence of women voices, and even if they are, it's like a separate entity called women writing in India. So until and unless you do not give the women writers or intellectuals or sane voices or practitioners the value they deserve, it is not going to solve the issue, Kushalji. For example, I run away from the tag of a woman entrepreneur or a woman writer or a woman speaker, because the moment you gender that identity of a speaker, that's the moment when you automatically put the other person on a hierarchical pedestal, which is slightly lower than that of a man. So because you're a woman, some of the mistakes you will commit would be, brushed away, because she's a woman writer after all. Let her, give her that space. Or you will not be able to articulate things with a sense of authority that, say, a non-gendered writer would. So I think the absence of women voices, the absence of women uh, practices in the larger framework of either politics or writing um, or designs it has been a problem. But I don't know if women did not. I would not be ready to believe that women did not produce enough work. I would not be convinced to accept that women did not work. I think they always were doing whatever was supposed to be done. It's just that somehow, as a society, we have not given that work or that writing the due representation. I think the problem lies in representation.
यू नो मुझे याद आता है कि अगर स्प्रेड ऑफ आइडियाज़ की बात करें, तो हम अगर स्वामी विवेकानंद और श्री अरबिंदो, हमारे दो बड़े थिंकर्स, पिछले 100 सवा 100 सालों के अगर लें, अगर उनकी ज़िंदगी में वो दो औरतें नहीं आती जिन्होंने उनकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को इतना बड़ा किया, तो वो कभी नहीं बनते इतने बड़े। ये लोग भूल जाते हैं।
Yeah, and then the fact is that none of these women have independent voices of their own. We know of these women through these two men. The problem in the art the articulation that I'm making is that it completely gets straight jacketed into patriarchy and misogyny, but the problem does not stop with these labels. The problem is far deeper. My question is, why did we not have women saints without the tag of being women saints? Because the Hindu tradition, I mean, look, for example, forget about, I wouldn't go back want to go back into time that far. We know it for a fact that Kasturba was as much a Mahatma as Gandhi was, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was. But why do we not have a Kasturba Gandhi's biography? I'm sure she must have spoken, if not written about it, because I'm sure she was taking care of the household and the number of children that both of them had. I'm sure she did not have the time to articulate it in the environment that Gandhi had the luxury to have, and the decision that he had the luxury to take, that I'll completely dissociate myself from the family for my political, intellectual, or whatever vocation he practiced. But where is Kasturba in this entire frame of things? There is a voice, and not a via medium via XYZ people who talked about Kasturba, but what she felt about the entire situation. She was as much of a freedom fighter as Gandhi was. In fact, more, because Gandhi had completely shunned away the responsibility of the household. That woman was not only practicing her politics, that woman was also taking care of the household. And that has been the situation for most of the women in our country. And I don't want to go very far. I just, because, primarily, Kushalji, I am, yes, I'm a writer, and I'm all the labels that people would want to ascribe me with. But at heart, I am a homemaker, and I'll go back to homemaking only after a couple of years. The point is that our generation has seen mothers and mother-in-laws who have absolutely sacrificed themselves at the altar of family goodwill. Their voices are absent even today when the achievements of the sons and daughters are talked about. And as sons and daughters of those mothers and mother-in-laws, we know for a fact that we would have been nothing if our mothers didn't stand with us. The problem is our society. The problem has nothing to do with our scripture or religion. The problem has to do with how we have practiced ourselves as hypocritical beings, as absolutely culturally defunct individuals who want to gloat, put a tilak, chandan, and kalava, and say that we are Hindus, but we've not been Hindus. That's the whole point. That we have pretended being Hindus for far too long. We have practiced everything that the Abrahamic religions wanted us to practice. We still date, we practice parda, despite the fact that we know the kind of architecture we have in temples like Konark and Khajuraho. That was the Hindu way of life, of women not giving a damn to the kind of dresses they wanted to wear. But today, we will. I mean, 2007 or 6 or 8. I don't remember that time period. I was in graduation first, second year, and the Mangalore pub incident happened, where Ram Sene, I think, went ballistic against the women who had gone out to drink. So are these people Hindus? They're not, and I'm saying it on record, inviting the ire of lot of people who will disagree with me. But the point is, they are not Hindus. If they were Hindus, they would have gone back to the texts. They would have gone back to the Hindu scriptures. And I'm sorry, you can disagree and say that I don't believe in this, but those scriptures exist. Those architectures exist. They are our pride. They are the pride of this country. Ardhanarishwar is what is the whole idea of Ardhanarishwar? Of course, it's about Shiva and Shakti together. But it is also about gender. It is about giving equal representation and equal respect to the third gender. But I mean, do we really do that? Do Hindus really do that? So these are questions that we really need to ponder on. These are questions which we cannot even in our assertion of the Hindu right. I think we must, because of all the problems that we have had. We need to also look within and see whether we have been able to accept the traditions that we have been bequeathed with.
No, I couldn't agree more with you. And I always say this, that the Hindus are getting Abrahamic day by day. They don't want to admit to that. They like to say they are very dharmic, because but what is the essence of being dharmic? Being pluralistic, being open minded, being accepting and adjusting. Now, I'm not saying you be accepting and adjusting to garbage ideas. Like, no, you got to challenge garbage ideas. By no means am I a moral relativist. But when it comes to being open, you have to say that, विक्टोरियंस चले गए, अपनी विक्टोरियन वैल्यूज हमको देके चले गए, और हम वो बेचारे तो सुधर गए हैं अभी, उन्होंने तो अपनी विक्टोरियन वैल्यूज पता नहीं कौन से गटर में फेंक दी, मगर हमने उस गटर में से निकाली वो वैल्यूज, उसको धोया, और हमने बोला ये देखो हम ये करेंगे, और ये है अभी हमारे सोसाइटी में ये प्रॉब्लम है। मगर अगर ये बोलेंगे तो सोशल मीडिया पे प्योरिटी पुलिस आके आपके पीछे पड़ जाती है।
Yeah, you have to
और
be ideologically pure. You have to be politically consistent. You have to be. You don't have to basically evolve, and there's no room for evolution on social media. If, for example, I'll just take a live example of myself. If I campaigned for Nitish in 2015, I've committed sin for most of the Hindu right, and I'm okay with that because my Hinduism taught me to evolve. My Hinduism was not about being ossified in time. My Hinduism is about learning, about relearning, unlearning, and I'll continue to do that. So है ये problem, क्या कर सकते हैं? This is a problem of the Hindu right, and if we do not solve it, then then we'll continue to talk in cacophony, and unfortunately, cacophony does not lead to political revolutions. At the max, they can create situations for a huge political churn, but revolution नहीं आता उससे। revolution के लिए आपको संगठित होना पड़ता है, और संगठन के लिए आपको थोड़ा सा लिबरल भी होना पड़ता है। यू हैव टू बी एक्सेप्टिंग टुवर्ड्स द अदर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यूज। यू हैव टू बी अ ट्रू लिबरल, अ ट्रू हिंदू इन दैट सेंस ऑफ द टर्म। और धर्म अधर्म, धार्मिक अधार्मिक मैं नहीं बोलूंगी, क्योंकि फिर धर्म की परिभाषा अलग हो जाती है। पर मुझे केवल और केवल, मैं सनातन हिंदू धर्म पे अगर मेरा विश्वास है, तो मुझे तो एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी तो बिल्कुल होनी ही चाहिए। वो नहीं है तो फिर तो कोर फंडामेंटल ऑफ हिंदुइज्म के साथ हम खिलवाड़ कर रहे हैं।
yeah, this is how I live my life. I will do my thing with you, without you, in spite of you. मैं मेरा जीवन ऐसे ही चलाता रहता हूँ। और it's actually funny. Facebook has that amazing thing called memories. So you go down, आपने इस तारीख को इस साल में ये बोला था, इस साल में ये बोला था, इस साल में ये बोला था। Sometimes I actually go and check मैंने क्या बोला था। I'm ashamed of myself what I used to say 5-6 years ago.
No, but Kushalji, if you're ashamed of yourself in saying what you said 5, 6 years ago, but you should have, I mean, this is how I look at it. What is the problem in accepting that you are ashamed of that decision then, or those articulations then?
Exactly. That's my point. I evolve. And, maybe in the future, there'll be a new set of information coming in and I'll
Absolutely.
change my mind. I mean, what's the big deal? I don't get it.
Absolutely, I agree. And I keep saying this at every opportunity that I get, because these days people love to label me as a BJP spokesperson, or they love to say I'm a Sanghi. Well, I do not come from a Sangh background. None of the people in my family have gone to Shakhas. My husband's side, yes, they were received by the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh when they were migrating from Pakistan in absolute, disarray with respect to their, uh, the pains of partition. They were. So they have had that umbilical cord with Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh as Indians. But I did not. And the latest that I the latest family connection that has happened with Sangh is my mother, in her own right, working for Sanskrit and to popularize Magadhi and Hindi literature in whatever ways that she can. So I don't come from a Sangh family, and my brush, so as to say, with Sangh happened when I started hitting the ground and meeting people and meeting various pran pracharaks, and I absolutely uh, uh, respect the kind of sacrifices that Swayam Sevaks have made, and there's no changing of that position. But if people want me to be politically political, if they want me to sign a bond paper for politics and say that okay, I support the BJP for whatever they do, I will not be able to do that. I'm sorry. What BJP is doing today is fantastic for the nation, but how do I judge what BJP will do 5 years down the line? Should I have that sense of should I have that sense of freedom in me, that my constitution which allows me to have that freedom to judge policies, questions of political articulations at a given point in time? I would want that freedom, and I am free to do that. And I don't need to ask anybody for certificates or labels or endorsement to what I'm doing. I'll continue to do what I'm doing. I'm absolutely with the BJP on its policies today. And I've been able to, since thanks to the exposure that I've got, that I've been receiving, and I'll continue to get in the near future. I've seen the political history of the party, and I completely stand with the party. I mean, any political party which has arisen from that sense of reaction to a toxic breed of politics by a particular family would have reacted the way it has reacted. And therefore, I think I want to stand with the BJP because it has been a marginalized political force. And until and unless, numerically at least, both the parties have served the number of years that Congress have served at the union government, I think my support for the BJP will continue. But after that, दोनों का comparison तो मैं करूंगी ना कि उन्होंने क्या किया, आपने क्या किया. संघ के साथ निष्ठा होने का मतलब ये थोड़ी है कि मैंने भाजपा को ही मुझे सपोर्ट करना है, ये मैं बॉन्ड पेपर साइन करूं. Because the working of Sangh and the working of BJP is very, very different.
या और ये वन वे रिलेशनशिप कभी होना नहीं चाहिए। ये कैसा है कि आप अंदर आ गए तो ये अभिमन्यु हो क्या, भाई फंस गए, बाहर आने का भी तो रास्ता दो ना अगर आना है तो।
नहीं,
ये
मैं
तो
ये कह रही
बकवास
हूँ
है।
कि बाहर आने का रास्ता अभी चाहिए नहीं, पर जो प्यूरिटैनिकल हैं, जो आइडियोलॉजिकल प्यूरिटैनिकल्स हैं, जिनको हर चीज में लेबल लगाना होता है कि 2015 में तुमने ये किया था और 2000 मैंने तो स्पष्ट रूप से मैं कहती हूँ, एक तो मैं कश्मीर की आज़ादी के लिए मैंने झंडा भी उठाया था कॉलेज कैंपस में, और आज मैं बहुत ही ज्यादा मतलब आई वी वर एट फेस्टिवल ऑफ भारत एंड आई हैड टीयर्स इन माय आईज व्हेन आई हैड टू टॉक अबाउट इंडिया, बिकॉज आई मैं सिविलाइजेशनल नेशनलिज्म के कॉन्सेप्ट से ही बहुत लेट से टकराई. लोगों का एवोल्यूशन शायद जन्म से होता होगा, मेरा एवोल्यूशन काफी लेट हुआ. मेरा एवोल्यूशन 25 26 27 साल में हुआ. तो अपनी अपनी जर्नी है सबकी, एंड आई थिंक इट्स वेरी it's seep this whole narrative is seeped in bigotry to say that just because you were this at a point in time, you can never be a part of us. I think that should stop somewhere.
या दैट वोंट स्टॉप। द फनी पार्ट इज आरएसएस के जो एक्चुअल मेंबर्स होते हैं उनको कभी पड़ी नहीं होती है सब चीज़ों की। वो बेचारे इतने ओपन माइंडेड लोग होते हैं, बोलते हैं यार मेरे पास टाइम नहीं है ये सब चीज़ें करने का, मेरे को काम करना है
Yes,
देश के लिए। सो
absolutely,
दैट इज बिन माई
absolutely.
पर्सनल
I mean,
एक्सपीरियंस।
I would not want to publicize the name of the pracharak right now because he's working in absolute hostile terrains. This pracharak from Kerala, anyway, Kerala, we know the kind of political situation Kerala is in right now. A pracharak from Kerala is working in far-flung corners of the Bodo lands. Somebody who never had even information access to Assam has completely adapted to the ways of that land and is living there, working with the tribal communities. Why will I ever think of dissociating myself from this kind of social revolution that the RSS has really been undertaking ever since that organization has existed in this country? But since RSS is not political, since RSS, the mandate of the RSS, as far as I have understood, is not political, मतलब उसको political debate में मैं लेकर के ही क्यों जाऊं? But specifically with respect to the BJP, there are issues which have attracted me to the BJP. There might be issues which will repel me from the BJP. वो आएगा तो देखेंगे, भगवान करे वो ना आए.
Yeah, I hope that day doesn't come too. And we've just crossed the 1 hour mark. So a passing comment for the listeners. Now you've heard me chat with Shubhrastha from for now good hour and 5 minutes. Now think about what she says. Nuance is very important in life. Try and understand that you will वो एक्चुअली वो अच्छी लाइन थी, कभी किसी को मुकम्मल जहां नहीं मिलता, कभी जमी तो कभी आसमान नहीं मिलता. सो आपको ये प्योरिटी कभी मिलने नहीं वाली है आपकी लाइफ में. आप अपने घर पे हर चीज़ से एग्री करते हो क्या अपने माँ बाप से? नहीं करते हो ना, तो क्या उठा के रोज माँ बाप चेंज करते हो क्या? कि आज भाई मम्मी ने ये बोल दिया हम एग्री नहीं करते, आज से मम्मी कोई और, फिर पता चले वो वाली मम्मी ने कुछ और एग्री नहीं किया तो आज से ये वाली मम्मी के पास वापस गए. ये नहीं होता भाई, लाइफ में एडजस्ट किया करो and be more open. And if you're not open, then you are just like that left wing fascist that you hate the most.
Kushal ji,
Then don't.
just one observation. In fact, it's very interesting that we started with the question of migration, and the lines that you read right now talks about मुकम्मल जहां. कुछ लोगों को शायद मुकम्मल जहां की ख्वाहिश भी नहीं होती. कुछ को some of at least I identify myself as a migrant, and I would want to keep migrating all my life. And what is the issue with that? I don't think, I mean, इस हमारे देश का जो सबसे बड़ा महाकाव्य रहा है एक तरीके से, वो मेघदूतम रहा है. और मेघदूतम की जो कहानी है, जो कथा है, वो माइग्रेशन की ही कहानी है. एक बादल जो हमेशा भटकता रहा और हमेशा एक्टेड एज अ मैसेंजर. सो हर बार एक मुकम्मल जहाँ के लिए एक ठिकाने के लिए इतनी जद्दोजहद क्यों करनी? हो सकता है सफ़र ही बहुत खूबसूरत हो और आप पूरी ज़िंदगी सफ़र ही करते रहना चाहते हो. इसमें
नहीं,
दिक्कत क्यों होनी चाहिए?
कुछ लोग अरविंद केजरीवाल के जैसे सोशल मीडिया पे सिर्फ रायता फैलाने आते हैं. सो फाइनल मैसेज, रायता मत फैलाओ, जिंदगी जियो, मजे करो, और कभी कभी एक्चुअली पिक्चर भी देख लिया करो और मेरी पॉडकास्ट सुना करो. सो ऑन दैट नोट, थैंक्स अ लॉट Shubhrastha. I really had a good time talking to you, and all power to you, and I really look forward to your next book.
थैंक यू कुशल जी. थैंक्स अ लॉट.
Take care. Bye.
बाय.